Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar on what's new in Goverlan version 8.01.06. We're very excited to bring you some great new features to the Goverlan Remote Administration Suite. I am Ezra Charm, VP of Marketing here at Goverlan, and I'm joined by Raul Ortiz, our VP of Support and Sales Engineering. Say hi, Raul.
How you doing, everybody?
And we're going to walk you through some of the new features, do a quick intro with you first, tell you a little bit about the background of Goverlan for those of you who are not totally familiar. We were established way back in 1998, started out with a single deployment, one large Fortune 100 company in the financial sector on Wall Street, and then since then have expanded out to over 7,000 companies in 110 countries across 17 industries. You can look us up on Spiceworks if you're a Spiceworks user and read our reviews. We have 5-star reviews, and we're very proud of that. Just a little agenda for today's session. We'll do an introduction, which I think we just got done with, so we'll check that piece off. Discuss the added features around NTFS Permissions, mostly deep dive reporting on NTFS Permissions. Discuss new features on PowerShell and scripting, and then tie it all together in scope actions, where we're going to go through some specific examples on terminating employees, looking for inactive accounts, and post-migration security audits. These are three things that we as technologists, as sysadmins, don't always love doing, but it's part of our job, and there's ways to automate it and ways to make it less painful than it might be already. So let's get started taking a look at NTFS permissions. To kick this off, this is a view you already have within the Goverlan console. If you within admin and diagnostics, if you navigate to any user, you can open up that user's account information and then navigate over to the Groups tab and check off that Show Effective Memberships checkbox, and you'll get this recursive view of memberships so you can understand why an individual in your organization is a part of the groups they're a part of and therefore has the memberships that they have and the rights that they have. We've added the ability to produce that report from within scope actions. So now you can actually report on multiple accounts at once and understand why they have the memberships and what groups they're a member of and why. We combine that even further now with some new features, and this is a deep dive on NTFS permissions for corporate shares. And what you're looking at here, and Raul, when he takes over the demo portion of this webinar, he's going to explain further. But what you can essentially see is we have a parent directory within our corporate share, and then we have objects within that directory, and then we have different principal types, whether they're groups, users, or aliases. And then you can see the principal, whether it's a group, user, or alias, and the permissions that they have. So if we were to combine the report that shows us the effective memberships with the report that shows us the access level for each one of those groups and users, we now have a really, really comprehensive view on NTFS permissions, who has permissions to what type of permissions they have, and why they have those permissions. Another feature that we've worked on within Goverlan is the ability to use PowerShell more extensively throughout the product. This stemmed from our introduction of exporting PowerShell scripts from within WMIX, our WMI GUI Explorer tool. When it originally started with just being able to export out VB scripts, but we added in the ability to export out PowerShell scripts, and then the natural evolution was to take those PowerShell scripts and allow you to execute them from within Goverlan. And there are three places where you'll be able to leverage these scripts quite heavily. Within the batch and script section, which appears in admin and diagnostics, from the remote command line, whether in admin and diagnostics or just connecting to a machine through the remote command line, and from within scope actions. And scope actions really brings something interesting to scripting in that I can now do some automation around scripts that I've generated without doing a lot of heavy lifting on the script work. So you can leave your scripts to do the actual work that you wanted them to do, and then use the features within scope actions to run a script conditionally, run on a schedule, or run on a schedule that only fires off when a specific condition is met. And this brings a new level of automation to the world of PowerShell scripting. We're going to tie all this together, and Raul's going to do this rather nicely for us, in that we're going to bring in all of these features and terminate an employee. We tried to record this webinar live yesterday, and Mr. Aaron Woods really goofed on it. So he's getting fired today. And Raul built a scope action that's going to do a couple of things here. It's going to, first of all, look at where this user's logged in, log them off, and revoke their access. So that this way they, now that they're terminated, they can't cause harm to the organization. It's then going to run reports on NTFS permissions so that we can know where this user has had access, and also run reports on the user's login history, and then back up the user's email to a PST file using PowerShell. And now it's time for Raul to take over and take us through this demo. So I'm going to turn it over to Raul and circle back with you guys in a little bit.
Excellent. Thanks, Ezra. So we're going to get started with some demo items here today. So we've got a few things prepared. So we want to go basically from that list that Ezra gave us top to bottom. So the first thing I'd like to show you is the exporting of PowerShell scripts from WMIX. That's the first thing on that list there, just to give you an idea of how you can use the modularity of Goverlan to accomplish things for you. So the first thing I'm going to do is connect to a machine via WMIX. So now here we have our machine, and I can choose different aspects of the machine that I'd like to take a look at. Maybe I want to query all the disk information for a machine. So I'm going to right-click and do script query class instances. So here, once I create the script, I'll show you that Goverlan is creating this in PowerShell. I opened it up in the ICE for us because that's what we have as our default, and all the data that it's going to bring to Goverlan for us. So now that we have this script, we're going to want to save it. So I'm going to save it as, and here we will save it to our desktop as, we'll save it as the local _drive _report. So what this is going to do is report information based on the local drive. I'm just keeping it a little simple here just so you can get to the concept of how Goverlan can take care of this stuff for you. So now we have our local drive report information. We can close out of WMIX. I can come to our batch and script section, which is here in the welcome screen. Scroll down a little bit to batch and scripts, and I'm going to add the PowerShell script that we just created. So this script is local drive info, and what we're going to run, let me just expand this a little bit here. I'm going to choose the script, local drive report, and I'm going to leave all the options the same. The nice thing about Goverlan is that it's taking care of most of the PowerShell options for you. So here you can determine if you want to run it as someone else for whatever the case is. And then, of course, we're going to export this information, the details, back to a text file. So we'll also place this on the desktop, and we'll call this local drive report.txt. So what we're doing here is we're capturing the console information as the report is being generated and bringing it back to the text file. So now we'll apply this, and now we have our local drive info batch file. So now I can come to any machine within Goverlan and go to batch and script and double-click to run this batch file. So what Goverlan is going to do is dispatch the information and bring it back to us in a nice, neat little text file here. Exactly what you would have seen in the console. So that's the first feature here that we're offering, is the ability now to understand PowerShell scripts natively. The next part is I just want to touch a little bit on accessing PowerShell through the remote console. So we can start up our remote console and type in PowerShell. And what that's going to do is drop us into a PowerShell command prompt, and we can run our commandlets here. So get services, get service, and we can get our local running services. So here's another way that, again, we're taking on the challenge of bringing PowerShell through Goverlan for your use. Now what we're going to do is we're going to run into our situation here with our user Aaron Woods, who was misbehaving. So what we can do with Goverlan is we can first of all find out what he's doing. So let's just do a quick search for Mr. Aaron Woods. And let's see what he's doing. So here I can do set focus. And then we can, of course, detect where he's logged in. This is one of our staple features here at Goverlan. I actually have a remote control session running for what he's doing here. And he's looking for how to sabotage a webinar. So naturally, he needs to be fired. So what we're going to do is we're going to run our series of scope actions that takes care of logging him out of all his machines, reporting on all the access that he had, as well as a PowerShell script that will export his information to a PSD file. And we're going to take care of that in a nice, tidy little scope action. So I'm going to jump to the scope action section here, and I'm going to point out I have some pre-configured scope actions, but I'm going to actually step through the process of creating some of these, just so you can understand some of the new features that we brought to Goverlan in .06. So some of the new stuff comes as far as NTFS permissions go. So I'm just gonna start this from scratch here and do a new NTFS permissions report. So I'll click next. Now, whenever we're dealing with NTFS permissions, we have to target the machine that is holding the folders. So here you would target something like a file server or a Windows server of some sort that has the permissions where you want to query them. In our case, it's existing on a file server called 81. So that's our target. This is the server that has the files that we wish to query the permissions of. So now I'll click Next, and then I'll click New to add our action module. And as we all know, the Add Remove button, that's where all the magic happens in scope action. So we're going to come here to our Add Remove button, and we're going to report a computer property. So the part that we've added is the file system permission node here in the reporting area. Now, like other areas in Goverlan, we give you an accessible directories link for you to configure the directories you wish to query. I have some pre-built ones here, but we'll go ahead and create some new ones just so you can see the flexibility of this new directory paths feature. So if I click Add here, I can add directories in a few formats. Now, these directories are local to the target machine. So it's local to that file server that we're accessing. So here I can do C:/ I believe it's corporate data. And in here I can add something like a wildcard. So what this will do is it will give me the information on any subdirectories that are in here or files. We can also continue this path to say something like personal files. So what this is going to do, it's going to query all the subdirectories of corporate data, and any one of those that has personal files, report on the information and the NTFS permissions thereof. If I click here on the View Examples link, we have some more information that we can give you. We do also work with standard Windows variable information, so you can do something like %system.%. You can do something like %username% for the locally logged in user of a machine that you're querying, and of course this wildcard information. So that really makes this directory box very flexible. We can also do something like recursing the files and we can include subdirectories all the way down to 5 directories deep, or all of them. Just a little word of caution: if you have a very large structure, allow this decent amount of time to complete if you're going to recurse everything. And then, of course, we can give it a display name. So here we can give this a meaningful name that we can use within Goverlan. So I've already configured one here that queries the corporate data information, goes a level deep, and we've named it corporate data, company corporate data. So now, once you have that managed path set, if I come to report computer property, file system permission, you'll see that I have that object that I just created. Now, the things that you have available are, here we have object types, parent directory path, the name of the object itself, and in this case, when we say object, we're referring to file or folder. Is it read-only? Is it a system file? We've got tons of stuff in here. Oh, I'm sorry. When we have our corporate data, we can come into a few different properties and query those properties. The object type, the parent directory, the object name, the access type, so if it's an allow, deny, or if it's an audit failure. Principal type would be if it's a user group machine, or the principal itself, which in this case could be a user group or machine. The access type, this is really the key here, this is the goal, is to see what access a certain principal would have. So we have full control, modify, read, execute, and so on. And then we also have the extended attributes, like traverse folder, or read attributes, and things like that. So we have a lot of details in here that we include. So we include them for report purposes, but we also include them for condition purposes, for conditional purposes. So in here, you can use that same paths area and create conditions based on that same data. So we want to see a report where the principal name is a certain user, or where we have inheritance, where we want to trace to see where things are inheriting from, so we can fix problems at a root level. So we can have information conditionally reported, and all that information put in here. Once you have all that information set, you can come and do your reports based on that info. So the other one I'd like to also just show you about is once you have those those PowerShell scripts that you want to import, you can add them into your scope action the same way you're used to adding other scripting. You can come into your action and determine from here what package you want to use, and it will look just like all the rest of your scripts, whether they're batch, VB, or PowerShell, and Goverlan will execute that script on the remote machine. Now, you can execute this script conditionally, which is sort of what Ezra was talking about here. We can take the complexity out of the PowerShell script itself. We don't have to add the conditional parts, the intelligence, and so on into the PowerShell script. You can do that through a UI right here. Instead of adding all that information to the script, scope the script down to just doing its action, what it's supposed to do. Goverlan is going to dispatch the script locally and run it locally, just so it can run on a specific machine. So if you add those conditions, you can determine this script can only run on a certain machine with specific conditions. So we take that intelligence, you can take it right out of there, make simple scripts that do simple things, and import them here into Goverlan. So now we kind of tie up all those areas now with the features where we can put all that information into one nice little neat place. Now, we've recently come up with a little trick to run these scope actions through one scope action. We're going to be publishing how we do that at a later date. But basically, we're taking these 3 scope actions to terminate our employee and merging them into this one scope and running them from the one scope. So let me just put this off to the side a little bit so we can see how this runs with our bad user over here. Now, what we're taking care of in this scope is exporting the mailbox, getting NTFS permissions, and terminating the employee. And what that means, I'll just give you a little primer on what that means here, what this is doing. We're logging off any current session that the user has. Again, this feature is very specific to Goverlan. It's very unique in the sense that we can detect these live login sessions. So we're logging them off anywhere they may be. creating the recursive group membership report, taking a dump of all the login history, as well as moving the account, resetting the password, and disabling it. So we're putting all those actions here together in a nice little new package, as well as the NTFS permission and the PST export using the script.
What I like about that piece is whatever your organization's, I guess, rules are for terminating an employee, you can just plug them into that same scope action. So every organization might have some different things that they go through when terminating an employee from an IT perspective. And that's a great scope action to store and save, because I know that is always something that is troublesome, and to always follow the same process during that painful period is probably a best practice.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to have this as orchestrated as possible, because you want to make sure you cover all of your areas when you get that command from from your higher ups, and when they say it's time to terminate access for this employee. You want to have something that's deterministic, that's simple, and it will always behave the same way. So that, and also speaks to the modular nature of Goverlan. Just plug it in. I kind of was thinking about this earlier, where at the Statue of Liberty it says, "Bring me your weak, your poor," and all this stuff. Well, with Goverlan, bring us your scripts, your applications that act funny, your registry keys, or whatever the case, and plug it in and make it work in one great cohesive format.
And that's really one of the things that I love about our product the most, is that I know I've worked on some other client management systems with other companies in the past, and they were all script replacement solutions. It was like, no more scripting with this product, and we're more like, we'll work with whatever you have and give you added ability to manipulate it and get better use out of it and automate it. So if you're dead set on using PowerShell, now use PowerShell, but combine the automation that Goverlan brings to the table and the speed that Goverlan brings to the table.
Right. That's basically, you're saying that Goverlan here is a remote management framework. It's something that you can build your processes into so that they can run, and you can see the effects and have all the reporting and everything in one shot. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and execute this information so we can go ahead and terminate our employee. So I'm going to click the Run button here, and the scope action is going to do us the favor and run the other scope action. So it's going to collect the NTFS permission report, give us that information. It's also going to do the export of the PST. That takes a few seconds here, depending on the size of the mailbox. It will take a little while. And it's putting it into a specific location. We'll also be publishing that script for anyone to use if they want to take a look at it. And, of course, we're logging the user out in the background here, and we are capturing their information, their group membership reports, and so on. So that user's logged out, and we've gathered all our reports here. We've got a ton of great reports to show. So the first one we have here is the group membership. This is just group memberships at this point, where we can see this user was a member of these groups. Now, if we wanted to go into the recursive part, we can see here, based on, this is actually the whole user, the group membership report with the recursion. We can see who's a member of what groups and where they recurse to, and of course we can see the user that we're looking at here. So we can see that Aaron is a member of Group A by way of domain admins, the pseudo group, and Group D. So that's our second report there. We have our login history. So here we know everywhere this user's been logging in. So we've got a nice little list of history of everywhere that the person's been logging in. Now let's jump to...
I really love how it packages all the reports together in tabs in Excel.
Yeah, what it tends to do is put the information as logically as it can together in one place.
So now when we terminate an employee or we disable an inactive account, which you can easily build a scope for, you can now also hand off a report that shows, this is the work that was done. These are the issues that we fixed, and this is how we are now compliant again.
Exactly, exactly. So here we can see the NTFS permission report. We have our corporate data root share that we specified, and we specified a condition to say, where does this person have access? And here we see they have access to a directory called images, a directory called SD Startup, one called Top Secret, and some files as well. And we can see the level of access there, and if it was inherited or not. So those are some great reports that we have. Everything popped up here, and just so everyone can see, we'll jump into the area where that PST was supposed to go. I created a folder called Term Users, and here you can see Mr. Wood's PST is here, and also the text output from that script, and that's basically what the TXT we specified in the batch package is for. So we can see the output from that script. We can see that the job was submitted to the server, and it obviously completed the job by giving us the PST here. Plus, we have all the reports that we just ran, so we have everything in one nice little package. And, of course, for you Goverlan Advanced users, we'll be posting all this information as well as how to bring all the scope actions into one nice, neat scope action where you can just hit run and let them go.
So this is fantastic. What we've seen happen here is with you know, a little bit of pre-configuration, we've built out how we terminate an employee, and like we mentioned a moment ago, the same can be applied for you know, scanning for inactive accounts and cleaning those up, or really any other type of work you need to do. How we can combine multiple different actions in one scope and get the job done in a nice, neat, clean format.
Yep, that's basically it. And we want to, you know, again, we want to have this in a way to be deterministic so that it always runs the same for everybody that you have to run it for. You know, bring in all your PowerShell scripts and all your processes, plug them into Goverlan, make sure that, you know, we just put everything in the right orders and hit that run button. That's really the automation and the power behind that.
So while you're still within the console over here, tell me about how I get access to these new updates. Are they available now? Or?
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you are a current Goverlan user, you can do a few things. If you come to the welcome page and you go to the Goverlan Start section, if you're a current user and you have .05 or less, you'll see a banner pop up here in this area. Let me just annotate that so that we can show. So a banner will pop up right here saying that there's a new update available. If you don't see that, you can also go to Help, Online Access, check for updates, and that'll bring you to the update page. Also, you can go to Goverlan.com and go to the Downloads area.
So the PowerShell, the NTFS permissions, the recursive group memberships, all available right now?
That's all available right now, and it's published and ready to go.
Okay. Well, I think we've said it all. We had a great time here. We hope you guys enjoyed this session, and we hope you come back with lots of questions, lots of feature requests. We definitely love working on this product. We definitely love working with all of our customers, and please reach out, reach us on at Goverlan.com. You can click on our support links, on our sales links to get in touch with us.
Right, and you can also, we have a live chat system to get in touch with our support people. So if you have any projects that you have coming up and you want to just see how Goverlan can make that better, just contact us and we'll actually work with you to figure out how to get Goverlan to make your projects, the time to completion shorter and a lot more efficient.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Raul, and have a great day to everyone out there who joined us, and hope to hear from you guys soon.
Excellent. Everybody have a great day.
Bye.